How y'all doing? My name is Mr. Rev Comrade Rowley, and welcome to CLACCA ULC Homegroup Bible Studies. Studies, essentially, if you're just joining us, everything seems to be working, so we will continue. So, essentially, today we are just in CLACCA ULC Home Group Bible Studies. We discuss the sexuality and gender liberation hermeneutics of the Bible. And so we look at behind, within, and in front of the text. And today we're looking at Genesis 26. And so Genesis, so behind the text, Genesis 26, 1 to 33, is a brief cycle of stories about Isaac and Rebecca in Gerar from the J source. These are the only stories in which Isaac has a major role rather than a supporting role. A number of features, a number of features have happened behind this text. As we know, the Book of Genesis is part of the Torah, and it was we Moses is by most scholars is said to be the author. Essentially, the text was written between 850 and 550 BCE. We know in this particular passage it was set. There are a number of things that were happening. So, firstly, there was famine in the land. Secondly, there was a residence at King Gerar under King residence at Gerar under King Abimelech. Secondly, the other thing that happened is that there is a wife-sister motive. There is also an acquisition of wealth. There's conflict over wells and the founding of Beersheba, and this is all paralleled by the stories, by the stories of Abraham in Genesis 20, 1 to 18, 21, 22 to 34. And interestingly, these stories show no awareness of Isaac's children, Esau and Jacob, and they seem loosely connected chronologically to their context. Their focus on Isaac provides a transition to the more consequential story of Isaac's old age in chapter 27, and provides separation between Jacob's acquisition of the birthright from Esau and the blessing from Isaac. The other thing that is important to note, so the text is broken down into several different sections. From what we see here in a pointed contrast to the parents of Isaac, who at 40 years of age married Rebecca, daughter of appropriate patriarchal lineage. Esau at 40 marries two women of Hittite families of the land of Canaan, and these marriages make life bitter for both Isaac and Rebecca, since they violate the family code. This notice from the P source continues in 27:46 with Isaac and Rebecca's insistence that Jacob return to the patriarchal homeland to take a proper wife. These P texts form a frame around the J story that follows and provide a parallel motive for their journey to Haran. The other thing that is important to note about these particular passages is that to begin with, so in relation to when it's speaking about the former famine, former famine in Abraham. Isaac, in the same sense, is recapitulating the events of their parents' life, and Isaac's journey to Gerar on to King Abimelech is parallel to the story of Abraham and Sarah in chapter 20. In these stories, the patriarch and matriarch journey to a foreign land and claim that beautiful spouse is really the patriarch's sister, with similar outcomes. God reveals themselves to Isaac, and as Isaac had done often to Abraham, God had done often to Abraham, gives Isaac instructions and grants Isaac a blessing. The verses 3b to 5 are later expansions of the initial blessing and providing Isaac with the patriarchal promises of the land, offspring, and blessings. This expansion is based on the second angelic speech to Abraham in 22:15 to 18 and alludes to Abraham's obedience in that chapter. This variation of the story of the matriarch in danger differs from the others in that the beautiful matriarch is not taken into the king's harem. It also has a moment of comedy when Abimelech sees Isaac fondling their wife Rebecca. Becca. The Hebrew is Yitzchak Mesachek, which means Isaac playing. It is a play on Isaac's name here with a sexual connotation. This kind of play reveals the truth in the perceptive king, as with the Pharaoh in 12:10 to 20, and with their double, King Abimelech of Gerar in 21 to 18. Abimelech is justly offended by the patriarch's ruse, questions them, and protects the wife. Since they did not take the wife, since they did not take the spouse, they do not enrich the patriarch in a married price or recompense. The Lord blessed them, and Isaac gains wealth as promised. Isaac's wealth provokes a separation from Abimelech and a missing sense of the separation of Abraham and Lot. The conflict with the Philistines over wells recalls Abraham's conflict with the Philistines over the well of Beersheba, and the story of the oath and covenant between Isaac and the Philistines is parallel to the story with Abraham and the same Philistines. Both stories conclude with the founding of the Beersheba, meaning well of oath. In pointed contrast to their parent Isaac, who at 40 years of age married Rebecca, a child of the appropriate patriarchal lineage. Esau, at 40, marries two women of Hittite families, natives of the land of Canaan. Within the text now, the story is broken up into several sections. So the first section, a section from Isaac from Genesis 26 1 to 33 is primarily focused on the story of the relationship between Isaac and the Philistines. And while it's not a great relationship, ship, nonetheless, a concrete solution is worked out to resolve the issue over the dispute over the wells. The second part is primarily focused on in Genesis 26:34 to 35 is primarily focused on Isaac Esau's marriage. While this is not necessarily by no means stretch, this is not a perfect marriage, and highlights the problems with polygamous marriages. But the situation Asian at best highlights that even in marriage, abuse is not okay. In front of the text, I think that this is a message. This is a message primarily focused on the challenges that can often be dealt with in the challenges of fleeing abusive relationships, ships, um, and what needs to be done in order to in resolve the difficulties. And I think that this is a message um, of God's call to protect the innocent, defend the innocent, um, and defend the innocent and flee the perpetrators. Perpetrators. Well, I don't. Essentially, I'm the first to admit. While I'm not 100%, I'm not a huge fan of polygamous marriages. Um, marriages. Given the fact that there is that involved abusive relationships, relationships. The moral of this particular passage is that abuse abuse in relationships, regardless of whether there is in marriages or friendships, that it's important. This is a lesson in maintaining healthy boundaries, and when the boundaries are not necessarily healthy, especially in the case of abusive relationships. Sometimes you've got to take a step back. Sometimes you've got to make the brave and courageous step to take a step back and not enter into the drama of abusive relationships. And I think what I love about this story is the fact that it makes a strong stand. It makes a strong stand of that even God does not tolerate abusive relationships, regardless of whether it's an abusive relationship in marriage or friendship. Um, and the greatest thing that we can do is respect to people's autonomous decision making. At the same time, this is a message um, of saying no to saying no to abusive relationships, um, ships, um, and doing what you can, um, can to stop the abuse. Thank you very much for joining us for now. I have an important announcement. I have an important announcement at church at 5 p.m. As to why I'm having to take a break from doing house transformations, and it's not just essentially in general. In general, this is a blanket rule I'm applying to myself. Anybody else, if you want to go and do house transformations, that simply because I am taking a break from doing house transformations. That doesn't stop anybody else from going doing house transformations, but I will address why I'm taking a step back from doing house transformations for anyone. And I will make that announcement at 5 o'clock. God bless. God bless, and I will see you at 5 o'clock. And please continue to join us for Homegroup Bible studies every Sunday from 3 p.m. God bless, and I will see you at 5 o'clock.